welcome to all of you in this lecture on glass structure and properties. Today we are going to start module number 2 of our course on processing of non-metals. So just to review what we have already covered in module number 1, we have seen that what are the various types of engineering materials which are available with the engineers, or the products can be made up of different types of materials. So what are those types of materials that we have seen in lecture number 1 of module 1. Since the title of the course is processing of non-metals, so we have seen that what is the distinction between the metals and the non-metals. What are the physical and chemical properties of the metals and the non-metals in lecture number 2 of module 1. So till now we have focused our discussion on the broad spectrum of the manufacturing processes and the broad spectrum of the materials, and tried to correlate the properties with the applications as well as with the manufacturability, that if a certain material has got certain set of properties, how it can be processed. If you remember, in case of metals we have seen that one of the important property is ductility. So if the metal is ductile, it can be easily processed into thin wires. Similarly, in case of non-metals we have seen that they have got certain set of physical and chemical properties which are distinct, which are not similar to those of metals, and when this distinction is there, the processing techniques or the manufacturing techniques that can be applied for non-metals are different than those of metals. So with this background we are going to start other modules of this particular course. The modules would be focusing on the materials which have the non-metallic properties. So one of the materials is the glasses. So in case of glasses, let me first introduce you the module that what we are going to cover in this particular module. This module has been divided into 3 lectures or 3 units. So we will have 3 lectures on the glass, structure and properties of glass, and the processing of glass. So today's lecture would be focused on the structure and properties of glass, and the remaining 2 lectures will be focused on the processing. So the title of the lectures would be glass processing 1 and glass processing 2. We will see that how or what are the stages of the production of glass products or the processing of glass products. So broadly, a outline would be provided or a flow chart would be provided, sequential steps would be given that how the raw materials are melted, how the raw materials are melted first and then they are formed into various shapes like fibers or filaments. They can be shaped into tubing, they can be shaped into glass wool, they can be shaped into flat glass. Now depending upon the process, we will have different shapes. So in our lecture number 2 and lecture number 3, we will see that how the glass can be melted and how the molten glass can be given a particular shape. Now what is the shape that can be given? As I have already discussed, various shapes can be given, like the flat glass can be manufactured, glass filament can be manufactured to the tune of the diameter of 2 micron. Such fine filaments can be made, glass wool can be made, then we can make a glass tubing, we can make laminated glass, toughened glass. So different shapes can be given or different properties can be given to the glasses once we are able to melt it properly. And once we have melted and deformed or formed the glass, forming has been done into a definite shape, there may be certain induced stresses in the final product or the final shape that we have produced after forming process. So annealing is done to reduce those stresses. So all these details, that what is the annealing cycle, what is the annealing point, all these details will be covered in lecture number 2 and lecture number 3 of this module of glass, structure, properties and processing. But today's lecture would be focused on the glass, its structure and the properties. Slightly we will go towards the historical perspective of glasses. Then we will see what are the various types of glasses which are being used in industry these days or in our household these days. Then we will see the crystalline and the amorphous structures, and then we will try to understand that what are the specific properties of the glasses. So with this introduction, correlating what we are studying now or what we are discussing now with what we have already covered in our module number 1 and what we are going to cover in this particular module, we can start the module with the discussion on the glass, its structures and properties. So, let us start the introduction. The word glass, the historical perspective of glass. On your screen you can see the word glass is derived from the Latin term glacium, or glacium is used to refer to a transparent material. So, basically if we see, if we have to explain the meaning of glass to a layman, we can say that if it is a transparent material, it can be glass, although certain polymers are also transparent, but generally we say a glass is a transparent material. So, the word glass is derived from the Latin term glacium, and glacium is used to refer to a transparent material. So, we can say a very broad definition of glass is that it is a transparent material. Generally, glass can be defined as an inorganic product of fusion that has been cooled to a rigid condition without crystallization. So, it means that no crystallization is taking place and it has been cooled, means it has become a rigid condition, that is, it has become a solid. So, from a liquid state it has been cooled to a solid state without the actual crystallization taking place. So, this transition we will try to understand with the help of a diagram in today's lecture, this phase transformation that we will see with the help of a diagram, that how we can distinguish between a crystalline solid and an amorphous solid. That would be a part of the discussion in today's lecture. But very briefly we can say that glass can be defined as an inorganic product of fusion that has been cooled, means it has been, the temperature has been reduced from the liquid to the solid state to a rigid condition, that is a solid condition without crystallization. Today there are around 750 different types of commercial glasses available. So, we can see glasses all around us. I can just give a viewpoint that the cameras that are being used, that also make use of glasses. Within this particular studio there can be different types of glasses which are being used for different application. Even the lights that are being used are also using the glass, different types of glass. We can see the tubes that we use in our household, there also we see glass. The cameras are using the glasses. Even people use spectacle where the glasses are used. So, there can be glasses as another important application. Sometimes the detectives also use the glasses to take the fingerprints. So, sometimes we use a magnifying glass for a particular purpose. So, there can be different types of glasses which we see all around us in our day to day life. I have just highlighted few application areas of the glasses. We will certainly see in our series of lectures on this particular module, or in this particular module we will see what is a tinted glass, what is a laminated glass, what is a self cleaning glass, we will see what is a coated glass. So, different categories of glasses also we will see. So, basically in this particular point, that there are about 750 different types of commercial glasses available, I think this is very correct, because we see glasses all around us in different forms and shapes. The commercial glass that is majorly manufactured around the world is the soda lime glass. So, this is one of the most common types of glass which is manufactured all around the world and which finds substantial applications in our day to day life. So, basically to summarize what we have covered in this particular slide, this gives us the historical perspective and the application spectrum of the glasses. So, we can just conclude from this slide that glass has been derived, the word glass has been derived from the Latin word which is called glacium, and glacium means a transparent material, and glass has been cooled, or it has been, you can say, made from a liquid to a solid state without the crystallization taking place. And there are a large varieties of glasses which are present in our day to day life, and a rough figure has been provided on the slide, that is 750 basically type of glasses are being used, and we can further note different types of future developments in the form and types of glasses which we will see in near future. Now what are the batch materials? Now we have seen that glass, it is a transparent material. Now how or what are the various ingredients that go into the manufacturing of a glass? So batch materials to manufacture glass can be divided into following 5 categories according to their role in the process. Now we have to manufacture one final product that we are calling as glass. Now this particular glass would be made up of a number of constituents, and each constituent will have its own role. For example, we take our body. Our body is one complete entity, but in this complete entity there are so many different organs, there are so many different constituents that are making up the body. We have bones, we have skins, we have muscles. Similarly, if we take the glass, a general term glass will have so many different constituents, and these constituents would be divided into different proportions. In one particular category we may have more of glass former, less of flux. In other category we may have even very lesser amount of flux, more amount of modifiers. Sometimes we may use a colorant, we may not use a colorant. Sometimes fining agents may be required, may not be required, depending upon the processing technique that we are following. So basically glass is a common term, but this glass would be made up of different types of batch materials which would be combined in different proportions, and then they would be put into a melter. So we will see that what are the different types of melter. Just to give you an overview, there are different types of melters which are used to melt these batch materials. Now what are these different types of melter? You can have a unit melter, you can have a recuperative type of melter, we can have a electric melter, then we can have a regenerative type of melter. So there are different types of melters which will be used to melt these batch materials. But first of all, we need to understand that what is the role of the individual constituents that will go into the final processing of the glass. So on your screen you can see the very first point, that is the glass former. What are the different types of glass former? That is, you can see SiO2, B2O3 or P2O5. So these are sometimes silica is the primary constituent or primary glass former which is used. So glass former provides or the bulk to which we are adding the additional constituents to make the glass. So glass former is the major bulk that would result into the formation of the glass. So glass former, different examples are given on your screen, and the main purpose of the glass former is to provide the bulk or to provide the basic material which would result into a glass. Second point on your screen is the flux. Now what is the role of flux? Flux can be of different types. You can see NaO2, PbO. So there are different types of fluxes that can be used. There can be others also. The role of flux is to reduce the melting temperature. So in a furnace, if we are adding the flux, the temperature required to melt the glass former would be reduced, but certainly it will be at a cost, and the cost would be certain times reduction in the properties of the final glass that would be manufactured. So flux although has an advantage, but it has a slight disadvantage also, because it affects the properties of the final product. The third important point on your screen is the modifier, because once the properties are degraded, we have to slightly improve the properties, and for even if the properties are not getting degraded, our focus would be always to improve the properties of the glass that we are manufacturing. Now these properties can be improved with the addition of certain modifiers. Now what are the various types of modifiers which are added to the glass? On your screen you can see we can use boron, sodium, magnesium, titanium and calcium as the modifiers. So why a modifier is required? To improve the properties of the glass that we are manufacturing. So different types of modifiers will have different effect on the final properties of the glass that would come out of these batch materials. So till now we have seen that there is a glass former which provides the basic constituent, then on top of it we add the flux, and then a modifier to improve the properties, and finally two more constituents are added. First one is the colorant. The colorant can be gold or silver in order to impart a color to the glass, and finally the fining agents. Now what are the various types of fining agents that can be added? The different types of fining agents are arsenic, antimony oxides, potassium and sodium nitrates. So, arsenic and antimony oxide, potassium and sodium nitrates, these are some of the fining agents that are added. There can be a list of fining agents out of which we can choose that for a particular category of glass which type of fining agent should be added. Now, what is the role of the fining agent? Because we have seen each and every constituent has got a role. Glass former has a role, flux is added for a particular purpose, modifiers are added to improve the properties of the final glass, and then colorants are added to give a specific color or different colors to the glasses. But fining agents are used to improve the quality characteristics, to remove the bubbles etc. from the glass. So, fining agents are used to improve the quality of the glass. So, if we are able to understand that what are the raw materials that are going into the manufacturing or the processing of the glass, we would be able to understand the processing techniques in a much better manner. And before we process something, we should know that what are the ingredients of that raw material that we are processing in the final shape or in a final product form, because we would be seeing in the lecture number 2 and lecture number 3 various processing techniques which are used for processing these raw materials into the final product. So, before understanding the processing techniques, we need to understand that what are the various types of raw materials that will go into the process, but the proportions may vary. Now, we have seen on your screen, you can see there are 5 different types of constituents that are the batch materials used in a melter to melt and form the glass. In the melter, the constituents would be melted, the temperature would be high, the constituents would melt and they would form a glass melt, and this molten glass would then be formed using any of the technique, like in case of glass tubing we will use a mandrel, in case of float glass method a different technique will be used. So, there are number of techniques which we would be covering in the subsequent lectures, but these would be the raw materials. And in raw materials on your screen you can see, again I am revising because before going to the processing we should know that which are the raw materials, because there only one term would be used, that is raw material would be melted, and raw material is melted and it is in the molten stage, the glass is formed into this and this shape. But we should understand, when we are looking at the module in totality, we should understand that what are the various types of raw materials that would go into the processing of glass products. So, the various types of raw materials that would go into the final product are the glass former, the flux, the modifier, the colorant and the fining agent, and each one of these has got a specific objective in the final product, as well as they will ease out the process of manufacturing or the processing of the raw material into the final product. So, we will come back to these if necessary while we are discussing lecture number 2 and lecture number 3. Now, what are the types of commercial glasses which are available? On your screen you can see the type, as we have seen in the slide number 1, that soda lime glass is the most common type of glass which is manufactured or processed worldwide and has wide applications. So, we can see soda lime glass and we can see what are the various types of products that can be made. Now, why we have emphasized so much on the previous slide? Because we should understand that what are the various types of inputs or what are the various types of constituents which combined together to make a glass. And now, depending upon the proportions or different, we can say, fractions or proportions of these raw materials which we have seen in the previous slide, just again revising: glass former, flux, coloring agent, fining agent and the modifiers. Different proportion of these would be combined together to form different types of glasses. Now, what are the various types of glasses on your screen? You can see we can have a soda lime glass, we can have a lead alkali glass, borosilicate glass and fused silica glass. So, different types of glasses can be made and there can be other types also. different types of glasses are there, and each one of these has got certain specific applications. Now, what are the products that can be made with these different types of glasses, which have been made by varying or changing the types of raw materials that go into the making of the glass, or by modifying the proportions of the constituents that are used to make the glass. These are the types of glasses that are made, and now we will see the products one by one. We will try to understand. Point number 1, in the type we have soda lime glass. Now, soda lime glass, as I have already discussed, it is one of the most common type of glasses which is used worldwide. So, we can have beverage containers and window glass. So, glass, if you ask any child that have you seen glass, the child has one answer, yes, a glass bottle or any beverage bottle or any cold drink bottle. So, that is the one first we can say experience of a child with glass, and then the glass windows. So, glass windows and bottles, beverage bottle are the most common type of uses of glass which we see all around us. So, soda lime glass is used for manufacturing the beverage containers and the window glass. Second type of glass is a lead alkali glass, and this is used in the microelectronics, a little bit sophisticated application of the type of glass. So, glass, the point of putting all these things here, a wide variety of applications have to be emphasized, just to emphasize that glass is an important engineering material, and every engineer should have an idea that how glass is manufactured and what are the various ingredients that go into a glass manufacturing or glass processing. So, soda lime glass very commonly available, lead alkali glass, it is used for microelectronics, borosilicate glass, many times when we go to the chemistry labs or a lab where the temperatures are higher, or the experiments require equipment which can bear the higher temperatures, we simply see borosilicate glass is written on some of the containers. So, borosilicate glass is used in laboratory glassware. So, wherever we are using some experiments where the temperatures are higher, borosilicate glass is used, automobile headlamps and utensils. So, borosilicate also finds application where slightly higher temperatures are subjected. So, wherever the glass would be subjected to elevated temperature, slightly higher temperature, in those cases borosilicate glass will find lot of applications. Fused silica glass is used for windows, lenses and prism. So, we have a different category of glass, that is a fused silica glass. So, in this particular series of lectures we cannot go into the detail of each and every type of glass, that what are the constituents that will go into this particular glass and how this particular glass can be formed, but certainly we can just remember few important types of glasses and their application areas. So, the purpose of showing this particular slide is that we should be able to understand that if in a laboratory glassware, if on a laboratory scale a particular glass has to be procured, as an engineer I should focus on the borosilicate glass, and if a glass has to be purchased or procured for the window panes, we should very easily choose the soda lime glass. So, different types of glasses are there with different applications. So, just to revise this particular slide, there are different types of glasses like the soda lime glass, lead alkali glass, borosilicate glass and fused silica glass, and each one of these has got certain specific applications. Now, coming on to the structure of glass, till now what we have covered, we have seen that what are the various types of glasses, or what are the various types of constituents or raw materials that go into glass processing, and then we have seen in one of the slides what are the various types of glasses. Although we have not discussed in detail, we have only overviewed that different types of glasses. There also we have taken only 4 examples, and these 4 examples we have seen that what are the application areas, and we have tried to see that the application areas not only are very, we can say, primitive type of applications like household application, but there are many sophisticated applications also where glass finds its application. So, basically the point till now we have covered is that there are few set of raw materials which can be converted into engineering material, which we are calling as glass, and this particular glass has got many engineering applications. And now we will see what is the structure of the glass. The main constituent of the glass is silica sand, and almost all glasses contain at least 50% silica. So, the main constituent of the different types of glasses in a very general form is silica. So, in silica 50% silica would be present in different proportion. So, basically in totality of 100%, minimum 50% would be silica only. So, glass is an amorphous or non-crystalline solid that is brittle in nature, and the structure is obtained by melt quenching process. So, in this particular slide 2 or 3 very important points are there which we should try to understand. Sometime a question is asked in the examination, 1 mark question, whether glass is amorphous or crystalline. So, we should remember that glass is amorphous in nature, it is non-crystalline, it is not crystalline. So, first important point regarding the glass structure is that glass is amorphous in nature. Point number 2, it is brittle in nature. Now, this brittle characteristic of the glass will certainly pose certain problems in the secondary processing of glass products. Now, suppose we make a flat glass, there are processes which are used for making flat glass, which we will cover in lecture number 2. Suppose with the raw materials that we have seen already, we are able to make a glass or a glass sheet or a glass plate. I want to make a hole inside this glass plate. So, conventional drilling may not be applicable. Why? Because of the brittle characteristics of the glass. So, when we want to make a hole inside a glass, there may be some other techniques which may be required to make a hole, but conventional techniques may not render themselves applicable for hole making, specifically in case of brittle materials. So, glass is amorphous in nature. That is one important point we need to understand from this particular highlight that is there on the slide. Second is it is brittle in nature, and this brittleness will certainly affect the secondary processing of glass. And finally, how it is obtained? It is obtained by the melt quenching process. So, melt means high temperature, quenching means bringing it down to a lower temperature under specific cooling rate, under predefined cooling rate, under predetermined cooling rate. So, cooling rate is very important, and it dictates the properties of glass or the final product that we get out of glass. So, basically 3 important points need to be understood. Glass is amorphous, it is brittle, and it is made by the melt quenching method. Next point, when load is applied beyond the strength or the limit, when the load is applied beyond the strength limit, glass breaks without any proper warning. This we will try to understand with the help of a stress strain curve, where we will try to understand that how the glass breaks, how the failure of the glass takes place under tensile loading. So, that we will try to understand, and we will try to compare that how the glass fails and how any other metal fails, like steel or aluminium. So, we will see how the failure takes place. So, when the load is applied beyond the strength limit, glass breaks without any proper warning or prior warning, unlike steel and aluminium where plastic deformation occurs. So, the third point is important from the point of application of glass and how it will fail under specific set of conditions, when the compressive load will be applied or when the tensile load will be applied. Now, on your screen you can see the structure of glass. It is 2-dimensional demonstration of, this is a 2D representation of A, this is A. Looking at this, we can just have an idea that it is a very regular pattern, or this is a repeating geometric arrangement of atoms. You can see repeating geometric arrangement of atoms, and therefore it has a crystalline structure. The structure is of silica. This is a oxygen atom, green color, oxygen atom very clearly depicted. Then this black is the silicon atom, it is a silicon atom. So, this is a fairly regular structure, repeating geometric structure or atomic structure or atomic arrangement. So whenever it is very regular, it is crystalline structure of silica. And then second one, it is not very regular, random arrangement, amorphous structure of silica glass. And then a different type of soda glass is shown, soda silica glass. Here these blue colors depict the sodium atom, green color depicts the oxygen atom, and black color circles depict the silicon atom. So we can see a crystalline structure of silica, we can see the amorphous structure of silica glass, as well as we can see the structure of a soda silica glass. So we can see randomly oriented, random orientation or random atomic arrangement, whereas in case of crystalline silica we can see it is a repeating geometric arrangement of atoms, repeating geometric arrangement of atoms. So very clearly it distinguishes the structure of a crystalline solid and a amorphous solid. So amorphous solid will have a different structure and a crystalline will have a different structure. Now let us try to see the phases transformation of crystalline and amorphous solid, because we have seen glasses are amorphous in nature. So we will try to distinguish between the crystalline solid and the amorphous solid. So what is given on the slide, let us try to understand. When silica is in the crystal form and being heated at a temperature Tm, now Tm is the freezing or the melting point. So why we are focusing on silica? Because in case of glasses we have seen silica is the primary constituent or the main constituent that will further result in the processing of glass. So one of the key raw materials is silica. So when silica is in crystal form and being heated at a temperature Tm, that is the freezing or the melting point, it becomes liquid. So important point to note is, as we have seen melt quenching process or melt quenching method, when silica is in crystal form and being heated at a temperature Tm, that it is heated to a particular temperature which we are calling as Tm, that is the freezing or the melting point, it becomes liquid. So at that temperature it is liquid. It is observed that at melting point the specific volume of a crystalline solid changes abruptly, which causes sharp change in the physical properties. Now this is the temperature where it is in the liquid state, but the specific volume will change abruptly at this particular temperature. Temperature is Tm, that is the freezing or the melting point. This we will try to understand with the help of a diagram also, but first of all we should understand that when silica is in crystal form, it is crystalline form and being heated at a temperature Tm, that it has been, the temperature has been increased to Tm, heated at a temperature Tm, it becomes liquid. So at that particular moment it would be liquid. It is observed that at melting point, at this point Tm, the specific volume of the crystalline solid changes abruptly. So if it is a crystalline solid, the specific volume will change abruptly and it will cause a sharp change in the physical properties. So the properties would be different in case of crystalline and amorphous solid, and at this particular temperature, again I am emphasizing, that is Tm, the crystalline solid would show an abrupt change in the physical properties and the specific volume will decrease sharply. So this we will try to understand with the help of a diagram. So before we go to the diagram, let me first again read what is there on the slide, so that the things that we are going to discuss in the subsequent slide becomes absolutely clear. When silica is in crystal form and being heated at a temperature Tm, at a elevated temperature Tm, that we are calling as the freezing or the melting point, it becomes liquid. So at that particular temperature silica is in liquid form. Next point, it is observed that at melting point, at that particular point Tm, the specific volume of a crystalline solid, when silica is in crystalline form, the specific volume will decrease sharply or solid changes abruptly. The specific volume of crystalline solid changes abruptly, which causes sharp change in the physical properties. So this is what we are going to see now with the help of a diagram. Whereas in the diagram we have to compare the two, that how a amorphous solid will behave and how a crystalline solid will behave. So in case of crystalline solid, now the slide has been changed, but I would again emphasize that at a particular temperature Tm, the specific volume will change abruptly, which will have a sharp effect on the physical properties of the crystalline solid. Whereas in case of the amorphous structure of silica, it will soften gradually, the specific volume will not change abruptly, the specific volume will change gradually. It will start softening at a particular temperature Tg, when it is heated to a particular temperature. When the silica has been heated to a particular temperature, it will slowly try to soften, because there is a wide temperature range between the solid and the liquid state. So from liquid to solid, a wide range of temperature exists. The temperature Tg is called the glass transition temperature of the solids. So that is, Tg is a particular temperature or a critical temperature, that is called the glass transition temperature. Now on your screen you can see a diagram. In this particular diagram you can see, on the y axis we have the specific volume, on the x axis we have the temperature. Again I am repeating, y axis specific volume, x axis temperature, and this particular diagram shows the phase transformation of crystalline and amorphous solids on heating. From a particular temperature, the temperature is coming down. So here we can see we have a amorphous solid at a particular temperature, and here we have condition A. So this is our temperature Tm. That is, in the previous slide we have seen there are two critical temperature, one in case of crystalline solid, another in case of amorphous solid. In case of crystalline solid we have seen we have a temperature Tm, that is the melting point or the freezing point, and we have another temperature Tg, which is the glass transition temperature. Now we can see here A to B and C and D, it is crystalline, A, B, E and F, it is amorphous solid. So this is the crystalline solid, this is the curve for the crystalline solid, and this straight curve is for the amorphous solid, and this point Tg, that is the glass transition temperature, is falling on the amorphous solid. So in case of amorphous solid we will have the glass transition temperature. So we can see in this particular state we have a stable liquid, this particular line at this particular temperature. On x axis we have the temperature. So at this particular temperature we have a stable liquid. When it is getting when the temperature is reducing, we can see when it reaches the point B, from B, that is the melting point, it has a abrupt change in the specific volume. If you see on the screen, there is a abrupt change of the specific volume, which is on the y axis. On y axis we have a specific volume, and there is an abrupt change of this specific volume, and then finally the temperature further reduces and we get a crystalline solid. Whereas in case of amorphous solid, initial phase is same, and here the softening takes place, and finally we get a amorphous solid. But certainly there is a distinguishing temperature or the critical temperature that we call as the glass transition temperature in case of amorphous solid. So it is a critical temperature in case of amorphous solids. Just to revise what we have seen in this particular slide and the previous two slides, how to distinguish between the crystalline and the amorphous solid. So in case of crystalline solid we have a very regular structure or repeating regular arrangement of atoms, whereas in case of amorphous solid we have a random arrangement of atoms. So that is one important distinction between the amorphous solid and the crystalline solid. So in one case we have fairly regular arrangement, in other case we have a random arrangement of atoms. That is first difference. Second difference is that we have a in case of crystalline solid, at the melting point there is a sharp change in the specific volume, whereas it is this particular change in the specific volume is very gradual in case of the amorphous solid. So in crystalline solid we have a critical temperature that we call as the Tm, or the melting point, whereas in case of amorphous solid we have a specific temperature which we call as the glass transition temperature. So with the help of this particular diagram we see that when the specific volume changes we get a crystalline solid, and abruptly, and when it is changing gradually we do not get any regular arrangement of atoms, and therefore we get a amorphous solid. So our main aim is to distinguish between the crystalline structure and the amorphous structure in order to emphasize that glass has got a amorphous structure. Now we come on to the properties of the glass. We have seen in the previous slide the structure of the glass, that it has got a amorphous structure, and we have tried to differentiate between the amorphous structure and the crystalline structure. And in case of properties, now we can see that in compression the glass is very strong and its compressive strength can reach up to 10,000 MPa or 10,000 megapascal. But in tension, when the stress levels exceed 100 megapascal, glass fails easily. So these are just the general data which has been provided. As we see, there can be wide variety of glasses which are being used worldwide in different types of applications, and we will see some of these types of glasses like the toughened glass, the laminated glass, the coated glass, the tinted glass. So there are wide variety of glasses which are being used, but one important fact which is common for all type of glasses is that the compressive strength of glasses is much better as compared to the tensile stresses. So this just give a order of difference between the compressive and the tensile strength of the glass. So we can see the very first point on your slide. In compression the glass is very strong and its compressive strength can reach up to 10,000 megapascal. But in tension, when the stress levels exceed 100 megapascal, glass fails quickly. So we can conclude from this particular point that for applications where the compressive load is coming on the glass, we can say that yes, glass can take that load. But in applications where only tensile load is acting, we have to exercise caution before advocating the use of glass in those particular application, because the tensile strength or the stresses in tensile loading are entirely different from the type of stresses that are there. So in case of compressive strength, so when we have a high compressive strength, we can say that yes, glass can be used. When wherever the tensile loading is coming on glass, we can advocate that no, we can go for any other engineering material which has got good tensile strength. So very briefly, again we can say that in compression the glass is good, in tension the glass is not good. So in tension we can see the order of difference between the compressive strength and the tensile strength. Second point, Young's modulus of elasticity ranges from 55 to 90 gigapascal, and the Poisson's ratio ranges from 0.16 to 0.28. So we can see that wide range of we can say Poisson's ratio is there, and wide range of modulus of elasticity is there. Why? Because there are a wide variety of glasses which are available. The last point in this particular slide on glass properties is the other important properties of glass. Why we are discussing these properties? Because when we are going to form the glass into different shapes, we need to address these properties, and once we know that yes, these are the properties which are there in glass, we can select the process accordingly and we can manipulate the process accordingly. So the other important properties of glass are low thermal conductivity, so they can be used for these type of applications also, high dielectric strength, resistance to corrosion on attack by water and acid. So which is one important application, that is resistance to corrosion on attack by water and acid. So wherever there are chances that the galvanic corrosion or other types of corrosion may take place, there we can advocate the use of glass. So the summary of this particular slide of glass properties is that glass is good in compression, poor in tension. The Young's modulus has a wide range from 55 to 90 gigapascal. The Poisson's ratio has a range from 0.16 to 0.28. The other properties are low thermal conductivity, high dielectric strength and resistance to corrosion on attack by acid and water. So these are few properties that the glass possess. Now on your screen you can see a very simple representation of the stress strain behavior of steel and glass. So here we can see that there is no abrupt failure in case of steel. There can be necking that may take place. Maybe the steel will elongate, the cross sectional area will slightly reduce, and when we are applying the tensile load, after we can say some passage of time, the final catastrophic failure or final abrupt failure would take place, but before the failure certain amount of deformation would be noted. So the strain would be there, that is change in length to original length. There would be some change in length as compared to the original length before the actual tensile failure takes place. But in case of glass we can see that the failure is taking place abruptly. There is no plastic deformation that takes place, which already has been indicated that glass is brittle in nature. So this particular slide, that is the stress strain behavior, clearly indicates that the behavior of glass is different from the conventional metals that are used for various engineering application. This will dictate the use of glass in particular application and would also dictate the processing techniques that we are going to use for the manufacture or processing of glass. So with this we come to the end of our lecture number 1 in module 2, in which we have seen the basic aspects of the glasses. If you remember, we started with discussing that what are the various types of raw material, that is the various constituents of the raw material which are used for processing of glass. We have seen that there are broadly 5 categories. Category number 1 is the glass former, then we have flux, then we have third point, that is the modifier, fourth point are the colorants, and fifth point are the fining agents. We have seen that all 5 of these has got certain specific objectives in the batch material, or in they act as a constituent in the raw material for the processing of glass. Then we have seen that what is the structure of glass, how the crystalline structure is different from the amorphous structure. We have tried to understand that there are 2 important temperatures. In case of amorphous solid, it is the glass transition temperature, and in case of crystalline solid, we have seen that at a temperature, that is Tm, or the melting point, there is a sharp change in the specific volume, which results in a sharp change in the physical properties. So basically we have tried to understand the difference between the amorphous and the crystalline structure. Glass although has a amorphous structure, and finally we have seen some important properties of glass, that it is good in compression, it is poor in tension. We have seen the range of Young's modulus of elasticity for glass, we have seen the range of Poisson's ratio for the glasses, we have seen that glass has good, we can say, corrosion resistance to water and different types of acid, and finally we have seen the load, we can say stress strain curve for metal and glass, and we have seen in case of metals like steel, plastic deformation takes place, but in case of glass we have a brittle fracture when it is loaded in the tensile conditions. So next we will see in lecture number 2 and lecture number 3, that is glass processing 1 and glass processing 2, we will try to understand the various processes which are used for converting these raw materials or these amorphous solid that we have seen in today's class into usable products like flat glass, glass fiber or filament, glass wool, tubing, and toughened glass or laminated glass. Finally, we will see that these products or these shapes which are produced from the basic raw materials that we have seen today, that they are annealed in order to make them usable under different situations. So, with this we come to the end of lecture number 1 of module 2 in our course on processing of non-metals. Thank you.